Hello everyone, and we're here in downtown New York, and we're going to be doing our landing tutorial for our lovely helicopter. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, first things first, you have two different types of helicopter landing. So the first is kind of a sliding landing, and the second is going to be the classic hover plop landing. Now, the hover plop landing being a little tricky in Microsoft Flight Sim because of this. See how it's not smooth when it goes up and down? You really need that last little bit of precision. Yes, more reallys if you'd like to make fun of me in the comments, that's fine. To be able to do that safely. The second kind of landing, of course, is a sliding landing where we're basically going to come down on the ground, skid to a stop. So let's go ahead and get ourselves airborne here. I'm not going to do anything dainty or precise. I'm just going to go up in the air, keep it nice and simple here. We're down here at the southeastern corner of the Manhattan Island. This is right in the financial district. Really neat little heliport here. I've flown here a couple times in the real world, kind of going by it, and there's always 100 helicopters here, I swear. So when we're landing a helicopter, we're going to go ahead and do our little sliding landing first. You got to ask yourself, why would I need to do a landing where the helicopter lands almost more like an airplane than like an helicopter? Well, the reason is it all comes down to power. Now, if you remember, when we are hovering, we are using an enormous amount of helicopter power in order to keep this thing safely in the air. Now, if we tried to land this thing when it's a really hot day and we're very heavy, we could exceed the maximum power of this helicopter and do a real serious amount of damage, or we could have an engine failure. We really do not want that to happen when we're flying a helicopter, even if we're pretty close to the ground, because we're going to do a lot of damage. So, of course, our power is right over here. You can see I'm about 67% here, but keep in mind, I've got a little bit of forward motion to kind of help me out here. So what I'm doing here is a right traffic pattern. Helicopters always do right traffic patterns, so their altitude is going to be 500 feet as opposed to 1,000 feet, which is a little different. Obviously, fly the way you need to fly kind of a thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to land just the same way that you probably see helicopters in like the old MASH show lands. We're just going to come down and we're going to pull the nose up and we're going to have a nice little gentle glide. Now, what makes this type of landing really tricky is the fact that you're not only going to be hovering at the last second, but you're also going to be trying to go ahead and slowly make contact. Your goal here is not to spend more time in the air and hovering at the same time as killing all your forward speed. So it takes a little bit of coordination to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself real close. We're about to get the helicopter blade and ground effect here. We're going to reduce our power a little bit, and we're just going to slide to a landing, just like that. Now, this particular landing was not the world's smoothest landing here, but notice that I never really exceeded anywhere near the maximum amount of power that this particular helicopter could do. Obviously, if you're on grass, it's a little safer. If you have little wheels, it makes it a little bit safer. But the reality is, if you have a really nasty situation where you're going to damage the helicopter, it's a great way to get yourself back down on the ground without any complications. It is definitely not the preferred method of landing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and bring us back around here, and we'll go ahead and set the preferred landing method. Preferred landing method is a controlled hover to a stop. So basically what you have to do is get yourself within that first rotor and ground effect, hold it, stabilize, and then what you're going to do is slowly reduce collective and go ahead and bring the helicopter back down to the ground smoothly. One of the things that makes this super tricky in Flight Sim is the fact that controls have that distinctive damping factor to them. As I've showed kind of in the previous videos where you kind of move the controls back and forth, it has that like delay, and they kind of like smoothly go to the positions. That makes it very difficult to control a helicopter. Trust me on that one. It is much simpler when you have direct control. Now, when we have little helicopters like this G2 here, you have no delay. There's no resistance on your controls when you're doing it. So we're going to do the exact same procedure this time when we're coming in for a landing. The only difference is we're going to hold the helicopter in a hover before placing it down on the ground. Now, hopefully you've gotten up on your hover practicing. I'm still working this helicopter out, to be honest. So we're going to get ourselves away from the edge of that skiff there. And remember, as soon as we cross over the asphalt here, you're going to get that rotor and ground effect, which is going to cause you to have that really funky cushion. See it? So now what we're going to do is we're going to hold ourselves just a few feet over the ground. And all we're going to do is reduce the collective. And we're going to settle into the ground normally, just like that. And you can see the difference between the two, whereas one had that kind of aggressive skid, the other one we just sort of plopped and plopped down there. One thing you want to watch out for when you do that, of course, is that you don't kill the collective right away. You just want to smoothly reduce it after you've come down on the ground. So one more thing, we'll go ahead and take a look at landings. And I know everybody's very interested in this particular landing here, so let's go ahead and get airborne. And that's, what if you have a building? So a lot of people are like, well, okay, I can get on that H any time of the week, so I'm not worried about it too much. But what if I wanted to land on one of these? Whoa, look at my power, look at my power, look at my power. One of the things are, like, let's say I want to fly downtown and I want to plop on one of these buildings. Well, there is one challenge with plopping on buildings in Flight Sim that isn't well addressed unless you have a special customized scenery. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that in just a second here. So let's go ahead and get myself a little bit of altitude. I'm about 85% power here. This is this poor little helicopter is getting a workout for me. Of course, the skids right now are looking a little shinier than they were when I first started flying today. But like I said, I'm still working it out just like everybody else is. I'm just showing you the general techniques. All right, so let's say we want to plop this thing on the ground here. So the first things first is you're going to have the same problem we had in a minute, and that's going to be the rotor and ground effect. So your ability to hover really, really, really gently here is going to be absolutely critical. The second factor, and this is going to be the rather more amusing factor, and let me go ahead and set myself up here. Go ahead and give it a little bit of power. Okay, we're going to settle. All right, here we go. Here we go. Ready, go. Hey, this is a better landing than my first one. There we are. Nice. Unfortunately, my demonstration was better than I thought it was going to be. A lot of these buildings are not solid. So one of the issues that you're going to have is you're going to want to plop on a building like this, and you're going to sink right through it and go pop, 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 pop underneath. The other thing you got to watch out for when you're landing buildings, see these little nubs and stuff like that? Some of these do have collision. So, of course, when you go banging into them, your helicopter goes and all of a sudden you're completely upside down. So you kind of got to watch out for that. So let's go back airborne, and I just love to end our video on something that looks a little bit like this. Sneaking up, sneaking up, sneaking up. Something wrong with that building. Ooh. So hopefully you saw this video and hope you found it was enjoyable. But other than that, enjoy.